today. Feeling it. Feeling it. All right. Anyways. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the daily recap. What is January 8th, 2018. I'm Breaky CBK, of course, and I have finally made it home here. I was in D.C. up until earlier this morning where I left, and of course I made it home back to Michigan. Of course, I was attending the Captain's Draft Tournament and had a lot of fun at it. As if you've been watching these daily recaps, I'm sure you've heard that once or twice before. But no, really did have a lot of fun. It was a great event, and a big shout out once again to Moonduck for putting on not only a good event that ended up with a very good finish, which we'll get into in just a second here, but also very entertaining. I mean, that's one of the. I've been to many events in my lifetime. A lot of them I've happened to work for, specifically with Han, of course, on the casting side. But I've also attended a fair amount of events as a spectator, especially in the Dota 2 scene. And I gotta say, as far as content goes, as far as really keeping the crowd entertained in between games, especially, this was arguably one of the best ones for that, hands down. So definitely big props to Moonduck. And when it came to their content, especially Sir Action Slacks, of course, he's no secret the vision behind the content. And yes, some of it was just you're watching, you're like, what the fuck is this? That's Moonduck for you. But again, it was entertaining, and that's I think the biggest thing to ultimately take from it. Kept you busy rather than just a simple static AFK, we'll be right back screen, I think is the important thing. Anyways, with all of that said, we got plenty to talk about today, including the Captain's Draft Finals, which, man, was one of the best of 5 grand finals we've had in a while, that's for sure. I want to say really since what was God, now I'm blanking. I want to say since it was the Kiev Major, right? I believe so. I believe it was the Kiev Major way back, even last year with Virtus Pro and OG. That went the distance, had an epic finish, of course. We honestly got that feel from these grand finals. So, hell of a grand finals. There's some more tournament results to talk about, some other qualifiers happening, and yet some more information about Galaxy battles, including finally a little bit of good news, perhaps, for the event. But, okay, before we get into all of that, though, again, let's start it off with the Captain's Draft Tournament here. So, Captain's Draft, spoiler alert, Team Secret, they did ultimately win the series 3-2, and they are your Captain's Draft champions, which we were reminded about. They actually took the second season, technically, of Captain's Draft as well. Obviously, that was a completely different team. The only remaining player was, of course, Puppey. Other than that, a completely different team. So, not really a second-time champion when you think about it. But still, Team Secret, 3-2. And, if you were to see this just right off the bat, you're not even watching the series, you'd be like, okay, they won 3-2, cool. I'm guessing it was a good series, whatever. Boy, is there a lot more to it than just that. Oh, my God. This was a series, starting with the first game. What happened? Secret's draft was a little funky, and by a little funky, I mean quite a bit funky. They decided to run an Ogre Magi in the off lane in the hands of Fata, and they actually had a Lifestealer with really no Infest Bomb target. As you see in the lineup, they ran Ogre in the off lane, they ran a OD mid, Lifestealer safe lane, and then a Vengeful Coddle support. So you think of those heroes, like you think, okay, maybe a Vengeful to swap in and Infest Bomb, but there's no really good options when it came to the Infest Bombs, and that showed. That showed earlier on in this game. You look at the side of Vici Gaming, on the other hand, they had your classic Medusa. They had 3 cores that were all getting very good farm in the beginning of the game, and there was a point in this game where they had, I want to say it was upwards of a 15,000 net worth lead, and it was looking all but lost. I was, with the people that I was hanging out with there at the event, I was making points that, okay, why aren't they hitting enter and typing GG? Come on, just move on to the second game. And I've talked about it all the time, when I'm casting a series or whatever, where, why does a team insist on sticking in a game for so long, especially in the first game of a best of 5? Then there's that mental side of it that comes into play, like they're just going to get more frustrated, just GG out, it's over. This game was at that point, and I was a little bit surprised that they weren't GGing out. It was good that they didn't. Definitely bravo to Secret in terms of not GGing out and persevering. And you know what? It did take mistakes from Vici Gaming, and that's what it takes in the cases that they were in. But they got those mistakes. A couple of mistakes, specifically one where it was Faceless Void. He was really stretching for a kill himself, essentially diving into the base. They ended up catching him. They killed him. And then it kind of snowballed a little bit from there because what happened is, so they started pushing back. It was 5 versus 4. And Vici Gaming realized, okay, we have to defend. Then they lost Medusa, and then Faceless Void bought back, and then Faceless Void went in, and then he died, and then he died back, and then Medusa bought back, and ultimately Vici Gaming kind of pushed them out, but just like that, both the Hardcores and Faceless Void and Medusa do not have buybacks for the next 7 minutes or so. And the lead was still, fairly up there for Vici Gaming, but you could tell, oh my god, something's happening. Something's happening here. Ace on Lifestealer, he was hitting like a freaking truck. Mid-1's OD was definitely struggling for most of this game. It really came down to Ace on Lifestealer, the farm that he had, and just how hard he was able to hit the other team. So they kind of worked off of that momentum. Another couple of picks. Lifestealer actually proved to be way too difficult to deal with, ultimately. He eventually got to a point where he was just 3 or 4 shotting heroes, especially the supports, let alone even the cores at times. Got plenty of support from the team at that point as well. And eventually, Secret, some way, somehow, managed the victory. They pulled it off, and then they won the first game as a result. So, crazy start to the series. So you got to think Vici Gaming's mindset going into Game 2 was like, what the hell just happened? Were they going to be frustrated? Not so much. Vici Gaming kind of, they shrugged it off. They played very well in Game number 2, and that showed. Simple story, they went on to win Game number 2. All of a sudden, we have a 1-1 series, kind of a reset. Game number 3. Similar, even more dominating by Vici Gaming. They won in 23 minutes, as you can see right there, 23.5 minutes, actually with a support Alchemist as well as a LAN M Alchemist that they ended up playing in that game right there. And, we get to a point where after the third game, Vici's up 2-1, and honestly, you're thinking to yourself, I know I was, Vici could have won this. They should have won the series 3-0. This series should be over, but the first game happened the way it did, obviously, which meant it was still alive. So you go into Game 4. Vici has all this momentum in the world. It was seeming like, okay, things were going to go that way. And for a while in Game number 4, it was looking like it was going to be the series, and my prediction was going to be right. I did predict a 3-1 series victory for Vici Gaming. So part of me was, as sad as it was to see, a Chinese team defeat a team like Team Secret, NA's last hope, as some may say. But, it's doing a little bit of, pat on the back of like, all right, well, I got the series prediction right at least. No. Team Secret said not today to Vici Gaming. Despite Paparazzi's best efforts on Morphling, he had a very early shotgun or the Ethereal Blade. He was just nuking down people left and right. And mid-1 on Ember Spirit, it was like a 28-minute Veil of Discord. I mean, that's when you know the game's going bad. He went like a 28-minute Veil of Discord. I remember, again, having the conversation with people nearby, and I still kind of stand by what we were talking about, but what was he doing? Right? Is that really going to be the best item choice? Is that really going to help you win this game? Gotta say, it did. Mid-1 kind of slowly grinded it out on the Ember Spirit. He got a little bit more farm. He was doing the split push effectively. Vici Gaming, for whatever reason, seemed to have a little bit of trouble ultimately answering that. And despite, in Game 4, they had a bigger lead than they had in Game number 1. I think it was upwards of 20,000 net worth, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I could probably check right here. I know we're dragging on in these finals, but man, if you did not watch these finals, you need to watch this series. Again, I highly recommend watching the series. What was it right here? 16,000 right there. So yeah, it was over 20,000 at this point. They literally finished the game with the advantage. They finished the game with the advantage, and they still lost. I mean, that kind of shows you how just crazy this game number 4 was. They had over a 20,000 net worth lead, but again, mid-1, he went the Veil. He eventually got the full Mjolnir. And you see his end build, it wasn't even like that crazy. I guess it just bought more space for Ace on the Medusa to ultimately do work, and as we know, Medusa can be just simply really annoying. And the illusions of Fata from the wall, I think, were a pretty massive issue as well. Something that the Morphling found himself running into as far as trouble goes. I know, yeah, and Paparazzi did get picked off a couple times in full agility form. They kind of bursted him down quickly, and ultimately Secret wins game number 4, and and Sunspan made the greatest comment after game number 4. He was like, Secret should have lost this series 4-0. I 100% agree with him, and mostly everyone else would. I mean, Secret had no business being in this series, going to a game number 5, yet they were. It was 2-2, and, thanks to some mistakes of VG Gaming, but obviously a fantastic play of Secret, all of a sudden we have a game number 5, and Secret, they went into game number 5, the draft was happening, it came down to the final pick. There was the idea of like, you know what, Meepo actually looks pretty good right here. And Secret agreed. Secret went with the Meepo pick. Ace ended up getting to play Meepo. He is known for playing Meepo. That's a strong hero for him. And we did see why when it came down to it. He actually played them in mid Meepo. They ran a safe lane Shadow Fiend with the with mid 1 playing it in that game. And Meepo just got out of hand. This was the first time where Secret actually looked like the better team in the game. It was a 31-minute victory, as you can ultimately tell, but Meepo got the lead that you like to see a Meepo get. He snowballed from it, and Ace, no doubt, MVP is Ace, 100%. Not only from the first game, even in the 4th game of Medusa, although not as entertaining or big of a factor necessarily. Mid 1 was a bigger MVP there for them, but then especially in Game 5. Taking over with Meepo, winning the game, winning the series as a result, and there you go. That's kind of a recap in case you did, for some reason, not watch it. I still highly suggest watching the Grand Finals, specifically the ones that Secret won, mainly because Game 1 and Game 4 especially, those were the highlight games of this series, and what a way to kick off 2018, man. Like I said, this Grand Finals is on par, if not better, you could argue, for several reasons, that better than the Kiev Grand Finals of last year of OG versus Virtus Pro over there. That was an epic Grand Finals in itself. Of course, that's what the True Side episode was on that Valve did there. So, Secret, your Captain's Draft champions. Fun to see. Vici Gaming, they were upset after. I actually got the chance to talk with Jack a little bit after the event, and he made a point. He's like, I didn't even bother going to talk to Vici because they were pissed. And it's understandable, man. They like Suns fans said, they should have won that series 4-0 when you look back at it, but they lost the first game somehow, and then they somehow even more so lost the 4th game on top of that. So frustrating series for them. Ultimately when it comes to points, it was just a minor, as we suggest. So, from that perspective, not necessarily the biggest deal for Vici Gaming that they lost right there, but still, from a competitive standpoint, it was frustrating. And there's some money too. I mean, you can't overlook that, right? You got 108,000 for first, 69,000 for second. So quick inning math right here. You're looking at about, what is that, just under 40,000 difference? That's a lot of money. I don't care what kind of money you're making, even if you're making millions. $40,000 difference, so, you break it down even further to 5 players, just under 10,000, more so about 7,500 or so for each player. That's a good chunk of money that ultimately was on the line for the finals right there. So that's something else to take into consideration. I'm sure it was ultimately a pride thing as well, though. And that was probably the biggest thing for Vici Gaming. Still, though, Vici Gaming, you could make strong arguments for. They are becoming the second strongest, up there as the strongest team in China, with the likes of Newbie, no doubt. So, all right. So that was the Captain's Draft Finals. Everything else not going to be as long, of course, but deserving of that again. A great event. Once again, shout out to Moonduck for putting it on. All right, so with me recording this daily recap a little bit later on in the day as I was traveling, a couple of other things did happen throughout today even, so might as well bring them up, including the qualifier for the GESC. We kind of previewed it a little bit in previous daily recaps here. The CIS region has officially wrapped up, and it ended up being a pretty good grand finals itself. I didn't get the chance to watch this, of course, as I was traveling, but from what I heard, it was a very entertaining grand finals. You see, Spirit was actually up 2-1, but then Na'Vi took the 4th and the 5th game, both in about 50-minute victories, to advance on to what's going to be a minor here of the GESC in Jakarta. So, I believe Indonesia, as we clarified before. So, South America also progressing. In fact, they are finishing up tonight, so in tomorrow's daily recap, I'm sure we'll have updates for you there. But SG Esports are waiting in the finals. Infamous and Mad Kings actually tied 1-1. I thought for sure this was going to be an easy Infamous SG Esports finals, but Mad Kings giving them a run for the money as they took the second game in 22 minutes. Jesus. I feel like South America region, they just play very quick matches. There's some 30, 40 minutes in here, but you look at this one, 19 minutes. Like, that's just insanely fast. But anyways, so maybe it will be Mad Kings matching up against SG Sports in the finals, but especially at that point, you'd have to lean towards SG being the favorites there. Those are the two qualifiers happening for GESC currently. Another set of qualifiers taking place for the Star Ladder I-League Invitational. Southeast Asia got kicked off early this morning, late last night, however you want to look at it. You see all the invited teams and a couple that had to get through the qualifiers, of course. Fnatic and TNC currently in the semifinals. On the top side, it is a straight-up single elimination bracket. Looks like Fnatic did have to take out Execration 2-0 in their series. But how about this matchup? This is going to be happening later on tonight, earlier in the morning. So again, in tomorrow's daily recap, we'll have an update there. But this is a good series right here, man. It almost sucks that these two teams are matched up in the semifinals, frankly. But single elimination, qualifying tournament, that's just how it's going to be sometimes. You got on the other side, these teams going to be playing later on as well to see how they advance on themselves. And then you have the NA region also starting. In fact, I want to say, was it earlier today? Yeah, they played earlier today. Wow, they played in the afternoon. Optic Gaming 2-0 over Pikachu. Outside of that, there's more results to come throughout these next couple of days. Of course, Complexity even traveling back from the Captain's Draft tournament. But you got the big name NA teams. Excuse me. Outside of EG, who was invited to this event. We talked about that before. Wait, they weren't invited? Oh, no, I'm thinking... Oh, wait, what? This is Starlet. Oh, no, they were invited to the GESC tournament. That's right. Yeah, they were invited to this one. So what is going on here, then? Why is EG not in this qualifier? Huh. I guess they didn't want to play this one. It is just a minor. It's going to be in Shanghai, it looks like, in early February. I guess it just didn't fit into their schedule. All right. Liquid and Newbie is going to be there as well. So EG decided no time to compete. Okay, interesting. It's a little bit interesting to see, especially with their new roster. You'd figure they want to get as much playtime in as they can, but nope, apparently not. So opens up the doors a little bit more for several of these other teams, of course. So we'll see how that one plays out. If Complexity can make it back to Shanghai for the Starlight Air event. All right, so those are a couple of result updates for you guys. And now that leads us into good old Galaxy battles. Good old Galaxy battles. So this is the breakdown currently of the teams that are still haven't made mention on whether they're going or not. I think that's a good way to put it because they could very likely still pull out. Some teams may be waiting to see which other teams do pull out to kind of see if, like, maybe we have a better chance, so maybe we will go. You still have a couple of big-name teams. Obviously, Newbie officially announcing as well with Kingwin. So the list is now Newbie, Kingwin, Virtus Pro, Team Secret, Team Liquid, and those five. Who am I missing? I think I'm missing somebody. Mineski. Yeah, and Mineski is the other team right there. So you got those 6 teams are actually have already officially announced that they've pulled out of the Galaxy battles. I made a point. There was no way I was going to say OG, and I thought all the Western teams essentially were going to pull out. Optic Gaming was a little bit surprising to me, but I'm still not surprised. Pain Gaming, again, wouldn't be surprised either. But then Newbie pulled out as well, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's even going to be the Chinese squad. What's going to be left at that point? However, interesting news today. OG officially announced that they are going to be attending. They are going to be attending the Galaxy Battles tournament. However, they're going to be doing it with a couple of stand-ins. Specifically, Keizu, he's going to be standing in for S4 at the offlane, and effing Mad, who's their coach, he's actually going to be playing in place of No-Tail at the one position. Now, it does make you think a little bit how the reason that Valve gave, at least, why they pulled their support was because this whole new drug testing, essentially. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch my daily recap from a couple of days ago. I believe it was 2-3 days ago even. I kind of go over it a little bit, and it's all over Reddit and everything. Simply put, there's a drug testing policy that was put into place by the Philippines government for esport athletes that are going to be coming into the country where they need to pass this drug test, specifically focused on weed and meth, apparently. The 2 specific drugs, which, again, is so weird. But, so these teams are pulling out, and I've talked about this. The idea that even if you don't do drugs, it's scary, man. Like, and I get that. I brought up the story of going to Singapore a while back. How I don't do drugs. I don't smoke pot. I don't do anything when it comes to that. But I was still scared because going to a country that is known for being very strict, even killing people. Like, again, I don't want to get too much into this topic, but there's some crazy shit out there. There's some crazy stories out there. These, both the Philippines and Singapore, for that matter, where they are very, very serious, very strict when it comes to drug use in that country. So even me, as somebody that doesn't do drugs whatsoever, I was still very unsure. I was like, okay, hopefully somebody doesn't plant shit on my bag. Like, it's being an outsider. Now, being an outsider and coming from another country, I highly doubt it would get to that point. I understand that. I get that, but it's still a very scary experience. So these teams pulling out, I don't necessarily think it's 100% evidence that, oh, they're all pulling out because they all smoke weed and, oh, they do meth, that, and they know they're not going to pass a drug test. No, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's a mix of just the scare factor of that, as well as just, again, frankly, the organization of Fallout Gaming, which is behind Galaxy Battles. They've made the point, or they've been a pretty they've done some interesting things in the past. I'll put it that way. You can do the research yourself if you really like, but Fallout Gaming, they've had some situations where it hasn't been the most successful in the past when it comes to their esports ventures. So mix of that, whatever. But the point I'm getting at, though, with an OG situation where they're kind of doing this in between, where frankly, I mean, they're essentially flat out saying that these two players just are not comfortable going, so that's why we're bringing these stand-in players. And, does that mean S4 and No Tailor potheads? Again, I don't think it absolutely confirms that by any means. Even if they are, who the fuck cares, right? Like, that's... And I know this is a completely different mentality from person to person and whatever country you live in, region, whatever, but, who the fuck cares? But... I find it interesting the way OG is doing it. Instead of pulling out as a full team, they're just not going with a couple of players, and they're going with the rest. It makes me kind of wonder if some of the other teams saw this and were like, you know what, maybe we could have done that, or not. But I think OG also saw a situation though where many of the teams that were going to be very competitive in this tournament were pulling out, and there was still going to be a $500,000 prize pool on the line as long as Galaxy Battles keeps their end of the bargain. No, but again, that's the other side of it. Is Galaxy Battles going to now turn around last minute and all of a sudden say, we're reducing the prize pool because all these teams pulled out and it's not as big of a deal as we hoped it would be, and thus we didn't sell tickets? Like, with what's been going on, ultimately I'm very surprised that a top-tier organization like OG is still planning to attend this event, because frankly it's seeming like it's going to be a shit show on our hands. That's just the unfortunate route it's going to, and it goes back to, it's really unfortunate for the Filipino fans that are there, that are so passionate. Maybe they'll still end up being great and they'll get to enjoy it. And, it was cool on OG to suggest that's one of the main reasons why they wanted to make a point to go out there. I know Jarek's made a tweet about that. He really wants to see his Filipino fans, so cool. That's great, but I do not have high hopes for this tournament, man. I do not have high hopes at all. We'll see, though. It's set to take place in about a week. It's literally set to take place in a week from today, as you see here. So, anyway, it's getting a random phone call. Love that spam phone calls. All right, guys, I think that's actually going to wrap it up, though, for our daily recap. I think we went over everything I wanted to. Again, I apologize that this was a little bit later posted. Obviously, I was traveling back today. I should have done it this morning. I totally blanked, though, as I was packing up, getting ready to leave the hotel. I packed up, and I was like, all right, I'm good to go, and I totally blanked on the idea of doing the daily recap. By the time I realized, I was already, at the airport, essentially, and traveling. So, got it in, though. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed, for those that did watch it. And obviously, I'll be back tomorrow to do another daily recap yet again. So, January 8th, 2018, we'll see you guys tomorrow.